My girlfriend's gonna kill me for touching these books. She just sorted all of them out in color order, category, genre, whatever. You know, this year I read 25 books, and in this YouTube video I basically want to discuss the books that I read. Plus, I'm going to give you guys some books that you shouldn't read. So, let me get the books together and then we're going to sit down and talk about it. So, I've categorized my books in 4 categories: study the greats, history, self-help, and business. Let's start off with Study the Greats, as the motto of this YouTube channel is study the greats and become greater. So the category Study the Greats is mostly just biographies of super interesting and fascinating people, people which I believe you can learn from. They're not all nice people. That's a misconception that great people are often nice people. No. So the first one we're starting with is John D. Rockefeller, an autobiography. John D. Rockefeller is not known for being a nice business guy, but I read this one and I also read 38 letters from Rockefeller to his son. It's insane, like you get a private look into the private letters that Rockefeller wrote to his son, and he's basically advising his son about business, politics, psychology, philosophy, and just handling his way in, this new business world. It's basically like introducing his son to the real world. So it's super interesting. This autobiography you can read in a weekend. Definitely 4 out of 5 stars. And the 38 letters from Rockefeller I'd give 5 out of 5 stars. It's honestly the top 3 favorite books of this year, I would say, yes. Okay, the next one is, it's here. On Writing by Stephen King. So Stephen King is of course known for being a fiction writer, but this is a non-fiction book. I was thinking about writing a book this year. I actually came quite far, but I eventually stopped because I felt like I didn't have enough information in my head yet. I'm not smart enough yet. And one of the key lessons that Stephen King taught me is that good readers often make good writers. And one of the things that he also talked about, which I just can't stress enough, and I tell all my friends this who always say, I don't have time for reading. Stephen King said it, even if you're waiting at the grocery line, you can read. Even if you're waiting for your bus, your train, your Uber, whatever, you can read. There are so many just moments, these little tiny 10-minute, 5-minute moments that you can read, waiting for the dentist, read. Those are the moments that you should read. So always have a book in your pocket, or I don't know, just bring it somewhere. But a Kindle, I'd say is a good investment too. Napoleon, a concise biography. I actually interviewed the author, David A. Bell. Love this book. If you're interested in history and you just want to have a sneak peek of Napoleon's life, you can literally read this in a weekend. I love these tiny, compact books where they just cut out the bullshit. So yeah, great introduction to Napoleon. Fascinating character of whom you can learn a lot actually. And don't trust the movie. The movie was shit. That's one of the worst things that happened in 2024. Okay, so the next book is Alexander the Great by Anthony Everett. I actually finished this book the 31st of December in the morning. I made a deal with my mom that she'll buy me the book if I finish it this year. So I did. I actually read the book on Kindle, but I'm still building my library, so it's always great to have a copy. Honestly, the life of Alexander the Great is fascinating. He wasn't just a conqueror, he was also an explorer, and I think that's one of the key lessons that I learned in the book is how much impact he had on just the world in general, especially spreading the Greek culture, the Macedonian culture. So fascinating read. 4 out of 5 stars, I'd say. I can't really mention it because I didn't read it in 2024, but the Nero biography that Anthony Everett did is also great. I read it in 2023. It was so good. I might just reread it this year. Let's stop with being positive. Let's talk some shit. Because this book, Churchill by Paul Johnson, I think Paul Johnson passed away. So I don't want to be too harsh, but oh my god, this book is so shit. Oh lord. I'm just gonna read my review, okay? I'm gonna read my Goodreads review. I quit after chapter 5. I can't lie. It's quite impressive to make such an interesting life so boring to read. The writing is bad, and there is no sense of storytelling. It felt like I was just reading Churchill's daily to-do list until his death. Nothing more to add. Let's be positive again. Tiger Woods. Oh my god, this book was so good, and I don't even golf. I've never golfed before in my life. I don't even know the rules of golfing, but just reading about the dedication, the childhood, like, fascinating. And I think the most important part of this book is his childhood. I actually made a YouTube video about this. It's called How to Create a Genius or How to Raise a Genius. I'll link it down below. But just the most interesting part I found is the upbringing. How his parents basically raised him to become the best golfer of all time. Nothing was an accident, which is fascinating because if it isn't an accident, we can steal the idea and use it in our own life. So in the YouTube video that I'll link below, I talked about it, but yeah. Category 2, history. Okay, so let's start off with Alistair Urquhart, The Forgotten Highlander. It's an autobiography. Let me get my notes real quick. Okay, so this is what he survived. You're not gonna believe this. 1,356 days as a prisoner of war, torture, tropical illness, and brutal forced labor, 5 days adrift in shark-infested waters, and last but not least, the Nagasaki atomic bomb. They also call him the luckiest man alive. To be honest, for me, this book was just a reminder how great my life is. I need to stop bloody complaining about all the little things. Like, life is so great and you have no idea until it just changes. I actually also made a YouTube video about this book, so I'll put that in the link below. Taking London. This book, Martin Dugard, I actually interviewed him too. Like, I've got so many links, I'm gonna put them all in the description, don't worry. But Martin Dugard, I just love him when people are passionate about their work. The research he did for this book, like, he actually went to the locations of where certain characters in this book actually were. So he walked like the routes that they walked, which is just, I love it when people like take the extra step, you know, put in the extra work, because you can actually like really tell in the writing, like he really knows what he's talking about. So Taking London is basically about the Great Battle of Britain. It was a battle that took place just before the Blitz. And in this book, he basically just shows the perspective of different characters. If you love history, World War II, you're gonna love this. Let's go to category 3, self-help. So I'm a nerd, not gonna lie. And as a nerd, I always have to do things a little weirdly. So I read not 1, not 2, but 3 books about love. Why? Because I recently got a girlfriend. So, you know, as the nerd that I am, instead of just experiencing love normally, now I actually have to do your research about it. You want to understand things. So I read 3 books about love. So I'm not going to yap too long about love. I'm just going to give you 4 key lessons that I learned from these books, which I hope, fingers crossed, I hope will help me in my relationship and maybe even in yours. So let me get the phone out, okay? 4 key lessons. Number 1 is work on understanding the gaps in your childhood. Often we bring our childhood trauma into our relationships, and this could take form in like a certain habit that you've got. So for instance, you become angry real quick. I think that you should really like analyze your youth, analyze your childhood, analyze your traumas. And you could do this with a friend, you could do this on your own, you could do this with a therapist, doesn't really matter. As long as you like really work on healing your inner child, basically. Lesson number 2, which was really important for me, is trust that you will be okay no matter what happens. And I read this in this book. I'll be honest, I've got trust issues, and what really helped me decrease it is to understand that no matter what happens, I'll be okay. And even if that's not the case, then at least for now I'll work on myself so I'm able to get to that stage where whatever happens, I'll be okay. Lesson 3 is have independent journeys and goals, which I read in this book. I think in order to always have conversation flowing, it's important to also have like a separate life. This way, and basically Jay Shetty describes it as being each other's guru. So you keep on teaching each other new stuff, and that's only possible if you have your own journey, your own goals. And lesson number 4 is have shared goals and work towards them. I actually did this too in my relationship. Like, we really sat down, we wrote down our goals in our journals, not only the separate goals but also our goals together. Like, what do we want to do? Do we want to save up this amount of money to eventually go to this country, or do you want to save this amount of money to eventually move in together, or whatever? Like, these are important things to write down, and I feel like your bond as a couple will really increase if you've got shared goals. So important, write that down. Okay, so the next 2 books in the self-help category is Seneca. It's a Dutch translation, but all you need to know is it's a book with the philosophy and essays of Seneca. Seneca was a Stoic philosopher, and he was also the advisor of the Emperor Nero. Then we've got The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, and both of them are about Stoicism, and Stoicism is a philosophy. And to me, I'm not really good at keeping up with like daily things, and this is like a book that you need to read every single day. So basically, for every single day, you've got a certain lesson, a quote, and a short story. And to me, I'm just not good at that, I'll be completely honest. So I read this book over the course of like 2 weeks, I think. So yeah, I cheated, but I do still recommend reading it. One book that didn't get boring was Relentless. I honestly have no clue where the book is, I can't find it, but it was still a great read. Relentless is written by the personal trainer of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and a few other big names. And just the mindset, and it just made me just realize that even though I do believe I work hard, I still don't work hard in comparison to some of these greats. I'm gonna read you a quote from the book, and it says, "I don't care how good you think you are, or how great others think you are. You can improve, and you will. Being relentless means demanding more of yourself than anyone else could ever demand of you. Know that every time you stop, you can still do more. The minute your mind thinks done, your instincts say next." This book is like a military father basically telling you about how lazy you are and you need to get your shit together. So yeah, it was a book that I needed at that period because I read it during the summer. So a lot of distractions, parties and shit. So yeah, it helped me a lot. Next one, Mastery by Robert Greene. As you guys know, the motto of this YouTube channel is study the greats and become greater. And Robert Greene has literally mastered that, no pun intended. But in his book, Mastery, he really showcases not only just lessons, but he writes about how these historical important figures also use these techniques. So one of the most important lessons definitely of this book, and it just opened up my eyes, is I know I can learn everything myself, but it's even better and faster if I find a mentor who can help me with that. So this book really helped me realize that, be open for help, be open for conversations with people who have already achieved what you still want to achieve. Even paying for mentors or paying for courses. I need to stop being scared of investing in people that have already got the experience that I am seeking for. So yeah, Robert Greene did it again. His other books are also great, but this one might be my favorite of his. So the next book is Dutch, so I think no one here will even be able to read it, but I'm still going to plug it. The Sign of My Life, Michael Pilarczyk. He's one of my clients, so I read and studied this book, and it was a good read. I learned a lot, especially about how important it is to really understand what is important to you. So really analyze why do you do certain things and what is the end goal, and knowing that you'll be able to make better decisions. Because when you make decisions, you can analyze, is this a decision that matches my personal beliefs? And that's one of the most important things that I learned from that book. The next one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Honestly, kind of overrated is what I thought, because it isn't. To be honest, it was a really great book. I actually really enjoyed it. Normally, I'm not really a fan of reading the popular books because, I feel like I'm a cool kid. So I don't do that. But this time I actually did, and I really don't regret it. 3 key lessons that I learned from the book. 1, the 2-minute rule. So say you don't want to do something, just tell yourself, I'm only going to read for 2 minutes. And trust me, you'll probably read for 10, 20, 60 minutes, whatever. Second lesson, don't judge your progress too soon. Often we analyze our statistics on YouTube, for instance, after only uploading 10 videos. I believe you need to make at least like 100 videos before you can actually start complaining about the stats. Because after 100 videos, you'll actually find out if you're even any good at it or not. Before 100 videos, just shh. So the third lesson I've of course implemented in my life, okay, just ignore the mess, but this basket used to be all the way in the corner over there and you couldn't even see it, and I never got reminded about all the bananas that I bought at the grocery store, so they go bad. But now I always got it in the middle of the table, screaming at me every single morning. It Was You All Along by Russ. So It Was You All Along, one of the coolest covers ever because it's like a mirror effect and the title is It Was You All Along and it just shows your face. You get it? Cool. So Russ, one of my favorite artists to be honest. He's a rapper, singer, and I recently went to his concert. And this is his second book, and what I love about his books is that it's first of all super easy to digest. I mean, even like if you look at the font, like the letters, it looks like a children's book, and it's not like a book. If you want to read something super sophisticated, philosophical, difficult, then you shouldn't read this book. It's super easy. But what I love about his books is that he actually has achieved something. And if a person has achieved something, then I trust their word a little more. And also the progress that you see from his first book, It's All in Your Head, to like the second book, It Was You All Along. He's basically like arguing with himself sometimes, and what you'll notice is like the growth, that he doesn't necessarily agree with everything that he said in his first books, which is really cool. So yeah, category number 4, business. So one of the business books that I read was The Algebra of Wealth, and I'll give it like 3 stars. It became a little repetitive. I didn't really like the writing, but I did learn a few lessons, and those lessons I'm bringing into 2025. The first one is I will have a strict monthly budget, and the second one is I will be saving more in cash instead of investments. The second one is honestly just I've realized that something that's important to me in order to be happy is peace of mind, and having a lot of money in the S&P 500 isn't necessarily what gives me peace of mind. What gives me peace of mind is having like cash like in my bank account. So one of the goals this year is to save a big amount cash, so if anything happens, I lose all my clients, I lose everything, then I'm still good for like 6 months. I'm still gonna invest in the S&P because, you know, compound interest, but it's gonna decrease this year. It's not gonna be the same as last year. So the next book is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is a venture capitalist, and he's also the founder of PayPal, or one of the founders of PayPal. This book was kind of more, I don't know, I think he did give like some important information, as mostly just his opinion too, as in like how he believes that monopolies are a good thing. And the feeling that I got, which is maybe I'm a little too kind-hearted, but it kind of felt like he was ignoring the little guy, and he was kind of saying like the little guy doesn't really have any significance. So the baker who has a family business for the past 200 years doesn't really have any significance. He's like very like a capitalist. So I mean, interesting read still. Definitely learned a few lessons, but wow. But then the next one, The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. Let me get it. This book, people, oh my god. If there's any book from this YouTube video that I really would want you to read, is this book. So many lessons. Steve Jobs was honestly a genius. He might be a dickhead here and there, but he was a genius. And the way he presented his PowerPoints when he did like the whole show of like, this is the iPhone or this is the iPod or whatever.
Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device.
He didn't just do it randomly. He didn't just start talking. Like everything he did had a reason, and the whole setup of his presentations were just strategically planned, and even like the way he did his PowerPoints or whatever. So definitely recommend. This cover, guys, oh my Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? I found this in bookstore, and oh, I've been looking for this book for ages. Like every time on Amazon it's like $200 or euros or whatever. But I found it and I'm so happy to have it. I still haven't completely finished it though. But Poor Charlie's Almanac, basically about the philosophy of Charlie Munger, and it has some of his most famous and important speeches.
It's a game of being there all the time and recognizing the rare opportunity when it comes.
He sadly passed away in 2022 in November, I believe. And honestly, he's a genius. Like his philosophy on life, his philosophy on investing, his philosophy on just even like relationships and reading. Like he famously say like a minute of reading is never like a minute wasted, something along the lines of that, and I definitely agree. So here are some of the books that I didn't mention yet because I just couldn't really put them in like a category, or I just didn't feel like they were worth mentioning, but I'm still gonna mention them real quick. I'm Glad My Mom Died. That title was crazy. The Greatest Nobodies of History, Outliers, The New Czar, and Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order. So these are all the 25 books that I read in 2024. Let me know in the comments, what's your reading goal for 2025? Mine is 30. And I do know that some of you love the recommendations, so I do have a small little list of books that I want to read this year, so I'm going to read them for you guys. Saladin, Do No Harm, How to Make a Few $Billion, On Michael Jackson, A Brief History of Portugal, The Happiest Man on Earth, Former People, As a Man Thinketh, The Psychology of Laziness, Against the Odds, The World's Greatest Letters, When Bread Becomes Air, Man's Search for Meaning, The Last Tsar, and hopefully many more. Thank you guys for watching, or girls.